Hello and welcome to the John Ark Show. Today's episode is called Business Lessons from a War Zone. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe, like, comment, and follow us. Also, remember to click on the notification bell so you can be notified every time we post a new episode. I'd like to tell you about Hollywood is Calling. It's a great service that allows you to purchase live phone calls from your favorite celebrity, so check them out. You can purchase a live 15-second call for $19.95 or a live 30-second call for $29.95. There are more than 100 celebrities to choose from, so look into it. It's hollywoodiscalling.com. Now, let's get started. Everybody thinks the business world is incredibly tough and competitive, and that is true. But there is another environment that is much tougher and exponentially more difficult to survive in, and that's a real military war zone. If you've grown up in cities like Detroit, the south side of Chicago, East LA, or cities like Beirut, then you've already experienced some of this. That's because some of those cities are essentially war zones pretending to be cities. Now, they are ultra-violent by any standards, but the level of violence in those urban areas still pales in comparison to what you see in actual war zones. So the question becomes, why do so many people who immigrate here from war zones come to the US and somehow manage to become very successful business owners? What is it about growing up or living in a war zone that seems to equip people with the skills they need to come to America and to prosper as business owners? We've analyzed this and learned a number of lessons that we believe most business people can adopt and put to good use in their own business practices. War zone lesson number 1, elevate your trauma threshold. When you grow up in a quiet Midwestern suburb and you've never really been exposed to trauma or danger, then you are less able to confront and overcome that trauma because it overwhelms you so easily. Let me give you a few examples. Let's say you're starting your first day on the job as a salesperson and you spend hour after hour making cold calls on what you hope will potentially become your clients. But everybody just keeps hanging up on you or refusing to set a meeting with you so you can pitch them your idea. After a few days of this endless rejection, you're worn out, psychologically devastated, and you decide you can't take it anymore, so you have to quit. Now, let's take someone who has grown up in a war zone or served overseas in the military. Let's say that this person has been shot at, fought in various battles, has been constantly exposed to nearby explosions, and things even much worse than that. And believe me, in a military zone, it gets much worse. Now, years later, that individual comes to the peace and quiet of the US. They get that same sales job and they start working. Now, each day they make their calls and they get rejected just like everybody else. But because of their background and all the violence they've had to endure overseas, their perspective is entirely different. That's because when they're getting rejected during sales calls all day long and getting turned down by clients they're trying to pitch, they don't sit back and cry about how difficult it is. What they're really doing is thinking, wow, I'm so glad I'm not getting shot at today or seeing any one of my friends getting killed. All I have to do is keep making these calls until I start succeeding. Now, getting turned down by clients is nothing compared to getting shot at by your enemy all day long. As long as I keep improving and learning, it's only a matter of time before I start succeeding and generating sales. This ability to see your reality through a different lens because of past trauma gives people a huge advantage when attempting to overcome adversity. What past trauma does is it resets your pain threshold, it elevates it, and allows you to process pain, discomfort, and disadvantage in ways that allow you to ignore them more effectively than someone who hasn't endured real trauma. If you stub your toe, then that may seem very painful. But if you've endured a serious wartime injury from gunfire in the past, then that stub toe, it doesn't seem so bad. The next skill is something called military discernment. When you're in a war zone, your powers of observation and discernment have to be dramatically elevated and enhanced. You need to be able to look very carefully at a group of people approaching you from 1,000 feet away and decide if they're friend or foe. In a wartime situation, having the ability to make the right observation will mean the difference between life and death. Your judgment has to be right and accurate, or you may not survive the day. In business, people are always being tasked with projects, evaluating pitches, or finding solutions. If they possess good judgment and an accurate sense of perception, then their success rate will increase. If not, if they're easily misled or confused or traumatized by earlier failures, then the likelihood of them succeeding will decrease. Now, the next skill business people need to learn from in war zones is the need to develop an amplified sense of calm. Most civilians panic when the cable goes out, or if they can't get a good Wi-Fi signal. They'll get angry and they'll get emotional, and those are all responses that will diminish their ability to get things done. In the military, when a sniper is getting ready to shoot and kill someone from half a mile away, the first thing they do is to calm themselves down and control their breathing. It's only when they are calm and in control that they're able to carry out their task and do what needs to be done in war. The next business skill that can be repurposed from the military is one that comes from repetition. It's called repetitive forging. In the world of metallurgy, when you forge a blade or a piece of metal, it becomes hardened and more able to withstand use and punishment. Now, the way you forge and toughen human beings is to repeatedly expose them to escalating levels of trauma or difficulty so they can become accustomed to them and then more able to deal with or resolve those issues and the trauma that they challenge you with. For example, if you have a competitor that's trying to steal your clients and trying to put you out of business, then you have to address that with escalating responses. When the first response you try doesn't work, then you have to quickly try another. Bodybuilders and weightlifters are very familiar with this process because the act of lifting weights is essentially the same process. You are traumatizing a muscle with repeated exercise in order to forge it, which means making it larger and stronger. Business people need to keep evolving and changing and trying new tactics, because if you don't, the enemy will just continue to advance, and that will eventually succeed. I want to thank you for watching and tell you that we're going to have more great celebrity interviews and more breaking news stories coming up in the future. So we want to encourage you to subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell so you can get notified every time we post a new story. Thank you for watching.